All right, it's the long-awaited Thursday here in Arizona, and I say that because we take a very close look at the numbers here in the state of Arizona on Thursday to let both businesses and schools know when they've hit metrics to be able to reopen. That is the major headline today, but also that we passed 200,000 cases here in Arizona. So we will get to a summary page and go over everything as we always do, but we know so many of you want to know if your favorite business or the business that you own can reopen, if your favorite gym, bar, or restaurant is reopening. So we'll talk about all that. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments. We'll be sure to get an update for your particular county as well. But let's dive right into the schools and businesses, Garrett, as these new numbers came out today.
Yes, absolutely. So let's go right in. We did get recalculations this morning. I've got it ready to go. So as you can see, this is for the entire state of Arizona, and the AZDHS, based on their metrics, is declaring that the entire state of Arizona is now at a moderate status for transmission of COVID-19. And you can see this because all of the metrics are made here. You can see the 100 cases per 100,000 people, 2 weeks under that threshold. The percent positive, 2 weeks under that threshold, and the CLI, both at minimum, both in the green, under that threshold. So basically, that's sort of a look at the entire state. However, this whole thing is being done by county. So let's go through some of the counties and see where things are. We'll start with the big one. We'll start, of course, with Maricopa County. Maricopa County has achieved moderate status today. So that means that all the businesses that had prior restrictions can now move into the moderate. And you can see same exact situation as the state. As you can imagine, Maricopa County has the most impact on the numbers. Both in the yellow here. Pretty decent drop right there from 8.6 to 6.1 for the percent positives, and the CLI, the COVID-like illness, is now nearing minimal status. It's at 5.1, and we'll be in the green next week, at least if trends continue. That is the first major one. We were also told that Pima would make it, and lo and behold, Pima does in fact make it for the same reasons. They did have an increase of cases, but it is still within the acceptable threshold, so it is not going to put their numbers in jeopardy or their status in jeopardy. However, we were also told Pinal would make it, but as you can see, that did not happen. So Pinal, in fact, they just missed it because several cases came in the last couple days for last week that actually pushed their August 2nd number over the 101, 100K per capita. So Pinal is still considered substantial by just a hair, but that still puts them in the red. So Pinal did not make it today. Other counties that did make it, I believe, Cochise, they have been in the green. Greenlee, believe it or not, Greenlee.
What a story in Greenlee. This is incredible.
Now, Greenlee is minimal, ladies and gentlemen, minimal. So Greenlee is now considered, that it has minimal transmission. And I can tell you based on the numbers I look at in Greenlee, it's a very small county, first of all, but second, they only have 3 active cases in the state, or 3 active cases left in the county. So essentially any day now, I think I've said this before, I'm waiting for Greenlee to basically declare that, at least as far as confirmed positives, they no longer have any. That doesn't mean, of course, that there's no COVID in Greenlee. It just means that they have no confirmed positives at that point.
Right. So Greenlee ended up being the only county that made it into that minimal category. Yes. Obviously, good news for that area. Of our 15 counties, 8 made it into moderate. 6 were still in that substantial range. So that would be Gila, Graham, Mojave, Pinal, Santa Cruz, and Yuma County. I know a lot of people have been joining us on here from Yuma. Do you think that maybe in the next week they'll get a little bit closer so that Yuma can move from substantial to moderate?
It does appear that it's going to take at least 2 weeks for Yuma to move into the moderate category because Yuma was so impacted by it was a national hotspot about a month ago. And so because of that, they had a very, very high per capita case infection rate. So you can see they're going down, but they're at 123. So it must be below 100. And as you can see, it's got at least 2 weeks to go right now before they can be considered. They're doing fine on percent positive right now. the COVID-like illness, syndromic, they're doing great. They just need to hit that metric right there. Santa Cruz is in the exact same boat as Yuma. And you can see they actually do make the per capita in this case. In fact, it looks like Santa Cruz, they're not in the same boat. My apologies. It looks like they're going to make moderate next week because I don't believe I've seen a change here on their numbers. So they should make moderate status next week. Victoria Heilman, I promise it's not a lie. It's actually just the numbers that the AZDHS is giving us. So, and then Cochise County, you can see, wait, who was it? It was Gila, was it?
To make it in the or to stay in substantial, yeah, Gila, Graham, Mojave, Pinal, Santa Cruz, and Yuma are all still in that substantial category.
Yes, and you can see Gila County, very high per capita rate. They did have an increase in the percent positive, but it is still within the yellow. So far, it is within the acceptable range at this point. But they didn't have at least 2 weeks to make it into this chart. So at least 2 weeks. And then you said Graham. Graham's kind of a hot spot right now. As you can see, their percent positives are ticking up. Their per capita is going down, but it looks like Graham's going to be a while. In fact, in the White House report that we shared a while ago, they said that Safford right now is a watch area. So we're sort of that's where we are watching.
Yeah, and Stephanie's asking, Stephanie Hernandez writes, what about Coconino? And some good news for Coconino as well. They've moved into that moderate category, just like Maricopa County. So those businesses can start to reopen as well, Stephanie. Thanks for the question. Also, Brant was asking about Yavapai County. And Brant, we're happy to say Yavapai also moves into that moderate category. So yes. Good news for both of those areas for businesses in those areas. Again, just to remind folks that are just joining us, this is only for businesses. We'll move on to the school metrics in just a moment, but that's how things look for businesses in these areas. And we've heard of a lot of businesses re-announcing, if you will, their opening plans, when they plan to open things up. Some people are still having to hire people back to be able to reopen, and then some are saying they are not going to be able to reopen at all. In fact, Salt River, to go tubing out there, they have just announced that they will simply stay closed for the season. They're saying it's just too late in the year for them to be able to hire all those people back to reopen, to close once again. They only had 16 days left of tubing anyway. And so they are inviting all of you to come back in April and tube with them at that point. But once again, they said they didn't even have the employees at this point, and so they'd have to hire everybody back just to start over. Doreen's asking about Cochise County, and we did just mention that as well. Cochise County moving into that moderate category. Doreen, thanks for the question.
Cochise has made it into the well. That's interesting. Cochise shouldn't be in the moderate. It should actually be in the substantial. I'm going to have to talk to AZDHS about that because their own data shows that this should not be considered moderate. So
now, do you think that could have happened because they put a data dump in that would have bumped that number back up in the revenue?
That is a possibility, but it would be in the same boat as Pinal County at that point. So yeah. They have to. You can't have one county giving moderate status with a data dump and then one not getting it. So this is something I just noticed, and it does appear that there is a discrepancy with Cochise County. At least based on their own metrics, they should be considered in the substantial category.
And Garrett, we'll say this. This did happen last week as well, where yes. when they did the overall snapshot of the week, they had announced that some different metrics for schools were already making it. It was not the case. They had included, in fact, it was Cochise last week too that they had accidentally included in that category. Unfortunately,
or Cochise.
yeah, you're open, you're not. You're open, you're not. So we'll check into that a little bit more. Maybe that's worth then looking at the Coconino County page just to make sure they didn't have the same problem with that as well. Can we click on that county?
No, yeah, Cochise is fine. It does. Okay. It's within the acceptable range right here. I was going to point out too that the second smallest county in Arizona, La Paz County. I'm sure that anybody who drives to Los Angeles, they drive through it every single time. They will likely be in the minimal category on Thursday. So as you can see, they have quite literally had a 0% test positive in this last week. They found no traces of the virus, at least for people being confirmed last week. So they will be hitting minimum category next week as well.
Yeah. Deborah Cole is asking, could you give an update for Santa Cruz once again? Would you be able to click on that? We are able to tell you they are still, unfortunately, in the substantial category. Yes. It looks like, though, next week they should be fine.
They should. They have one instance that's keeping them. But again, we just talked about Cochise being considered moderate, and yet they only have this. They have a discrepancy. So
yeah.
Yeah, you can see they've got this 11.2%. It has to go into the threshold of under 10%. So at least one more week for Santa Cruz.
I want to get to Brenda's question, and first of all, I appreciate all of your thoughtful questions coming in. We're reading through all of the comments on here as they come in live. And Brenda asks, does anyone know if Dewson will give an update today? Brenda, I can tell you he will not be giving an update today unless he speaks from D.C., because he's in Washington, D.C., planning to go to the Republican National Convention tonight. He is planning to be there when President Trump gives his acceptance speech later this evening. And so he is not in the state of Arizona right now. So really good question. I want to sort of let you know behind the scenes here, when he tells us he's going to speak, or his office usually tells us he's going to speak, we usually only find out that day. So they'll announce in the morning, maybe around noon. He's going to speak at 3 in the afternoon. So as soon as we learn, we pass it on to all of you. So many times people tell us, I didn't even know he was speaking today. I didn't hear. It's just because they tell us so late, and we let you all know as soon as we hear anything, as soon as we can. But that's how things are shaking out for him. He'll be in DC all day. You can watch the RNC and possibly get a glimpse of him out there as well. But that's the only time we expect to hear from him. Now, I mentioned Salt River not reopening for the year. You've probably gotten emails from your gym, maybe your favorite restaurant, places around the valley letting you know that they're reopening. We're also hearing of a large entertainment group that's planning on reopening. It's evening entertainment group, so that includes places like Sandbar and Hi-Fi, Bevy, Bottle Blonde. They're opening up, and they do need to still be serving food, but a lot of people see these as traditional bars here in town. So it'll be interesting to see how they work to maintain the numbers. Let's talk real quickly about compliance. They're wanting to hear from you. If you're going to these businesses and you're seeing things that are not safe, that could encourage the spread of COVID-19, that could send us right back into the numbers that we saw in June and July, the state wants to hear from you. The number to call, or the website to go to, since producer Josh has the website up first. Oh, there it is. It's azhealth.gov/compliance COVID-19. So if you go to that site, it's going to ask you a series of questions. They're going to ask you what bar or restaurant you were at, what date, what time, what you witnessed, what they need to do to improve safety measures, both for their staff and for all of you dining in there or eating in there. And then they don't just have this website. They also have a phone number, which might just be easiest to put in your phone. It's 1-844-410-2157. So they're asking you to call in if you see something that is really in question, that needs to be updated so that they can keep us all safe, and that we're not going to run into these high numbers again like we saw. So there are the numbers right there and the information. They do want to hear from you if you see something out there. All right, Garrett, should we stay on businesses a little longer or move over?
I brought up a table that I found that I think helps out, just sort of understand what we're looking at here. It puts everything in a nice one spot table, and I do appreciate that. So you can see this is everything that is impacted by this. I know some people have been active about long-term care facilities. Long-term care facilities is not they are not being considered within this operational guidelines. So it's just completely different. So you can see all the counties that achieved moderate status today, their indoor gyms can now open at 25%. Their theaters, water parks, all of that stuff at 50%. Bars and nightclubs that do provide dine-in services, 50%, but it has to be a restaurant. And then the bars and nightclubs that don't operate as restaurants, they are still closed in moderate status.
Okay, so really the thing of note, the minimal number is in the gyms, the indoor gyms and fitness centers. They're at the lowest at 25%. Pretty much everybody else is that 50%. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you can see when you get to green, the minimal. So like, say for example, Greenlee, which, there's not much in Greenlee, but say there's a gym in Greenlee, they're or La Paz. We'll go with La Paz because they have a 0% positivity. So if La Paz makes it to minimal next week, then a gym in La Paz can open at 50% occupancy. But then when it gets under 3%, which we saw was 0 today, so it could be 0 again next week, they technically can now open at 100% at that 3%. So they would be fully allowed to open at that point.
Okay, and you touched on the long-term care facilities, and I see Cindy's comment there because all this is more important, being with people we love in long-term care. So Cindy, I can let you know that they are working on the guidelines for that. Here's how things kind of look. They're considering that what they will do is have you test for COVID before you go into the long-term care facility so that you can see your loved one. They are moving at a record pace, I can tell you, though, with trying to get these guidelines out to everybody. We just did an update yesterday. You can find our story at abc15.com/coronavirus. But here's the deal. They're working on those specific guidelines, and then they said as soon as it's published, they'll be able to go with it. So you'll be able to go quickly get a test, go visit your loved one. They still want you to keep social distancing. They still want you to skip the hugs and the kisses for the time being. And I know that's so hard because going in to visit somebody who's maybe not entirely understanding the pandemic that we're going through and understanding why we have to keep our distance is going to be challenging. But I want to tell you, they put this task force together. They're putting the guidelines out there, and then they said it is go time as soon as those guidelines are published. So we'll let you know as soon as we hear more. We agree it's so important to be able to get those visits started again, and that it matters to those families that are dealing with that. Garrett, I mentioned this off the top. We hit 200,000 cases here in Arizona today. So as of today, check the calendar, August 27th, we started with one. I remember reporting on one case here in January. How did things go when we sort of hit these different marks to 100, to 1,000, to 100,000? What do our days look like as far as that goes?
Yeah, let me just pull that up so that we just have a visual.
I know you tweeted that today too.
I did tweet this because today was a milestone day. I did put it out on Twitter. So
yeah,
this is
if anybody's looking for it, they can find it on your Twitter account. It's @Garrett_Archer. I retweeted it in case you're following either one of us, and I'm @Katie Raml on Twitter, so you can find both of those there. But here you
can see our first case was recorded on January 20th. On March 21st, we hit 100 cases. The 26th, 500 cases. The 30th, 1,000. So it took very little amount of time to get to 1,000, and then it took about 20 days to get to 5,000. It took about another 20 days or so to get to 10,000. So essentially exponential. That's a doubling. You're seeing exponential growth here. 10,620. It took a little more than a month and a half to get to 50,000, and then it doubled by July 6th, got to 100,000 by July 22nd, and then, but now you can see, this is where you can see the slowing. It took a full month to not double, essentially. At that point, it's now just adding 50,000. In order to not double, and it took more than a month to do that. So this is where you can see the slowing as far as just how these numbers have played out. And I presume at this point it's going to take over 2 months to get to 250,000 at this point. I presume we will, just because how long this thing is going to be with us. But it seems like if the trajectory keeps going, it's going to take more than 60 days just to tack on another 50,000 cases.
Yeah, it's just interesting how quickly things changed in those weeks.
And of course, people must remember that if you tack on if it takes 60 days to tack on 50,000 cases, we're only talking about these most of the cases, the vast majority of them are only infectious for about 14 days. So I mean, really, the number of active infections that would be present in Arizona at any given time would be fairly low, even if we just continue on this trajectory.
Yeah, that would be the good news as places start to reopen. We don't want to see the same thing again. Okay, we are cruising through our time here, and I want to get to schools because that is equally important. And we'll check on those numbers out of Cochise for everybody. So once again, just to recap as we finish our conversation on businesses right here, Greenlee moved to the minimal category, the only county that did that. Moderate category is 8 counties. That includes Apache, Coconino, La Paz, Maricopa, Navajo, Pima, and Yavapai, and Cochise, but we do have a question on Cochise, so we'll check on that. And then the substantial category, nothing's going to change there. They're still spreading fast. Gila, Graham, Mojave, Pinal, Santa Cruz, and Yuma. So we keep you updated on how things change. That's for businesses. Schools, a little bit different. So let's get to the schools for you. We did have 2 more counties join us on the list, so we have 4 total that are meeting the metrics, Garrett. Maricopa County,
sorry, I know I have this shared, but I'm going to just share what the AZDHS put out for benchmarks today, just so that we have that. So just let me stop sharing this. I'm going to share this really quick. It's yet another window from Twitter, but it's the best place to get it. So here we are. The counties that now have made at least moderate status, Apache, we knew that they made that already. Greenlee is now joined them. La Paz has now joined them, and then Yavapai. So those are the counties that have made moderate status. You can see Coach is still out of it just by cases, but it should be back. And then Pinal still is missing 2, and Yuma is still missing 1. So that's sort of where we are with schools.
And I want to let people know this benchmarks graphic I've posted pretty much on all my social accounts on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. So you can find that information there. Since many of you are watching right now on Facebook, there's my Facebook address if you want to grab that that graphic on there. Facebook.com/news from Katie is where you can find that. So Apache and Yavapai both went into that category of meeting all the metrics last week, and then Greenlee and La Paz joined us there today.
Yeah, and I have the dashboard up now. So
yeah, how far out? Obviously, we talk about Maricopa County so much, but it is our most populous county. How many weeks more do you suspect Maricopa County would have? Yeah, Amanda's writing. So Maricopa is falling short for the percent positive. Yeah, that's the category that we're hung up on right now. It's got to hold for 2 weeks. We're getting close.
I presume next Thursday.
Wow. Okay.
So probably the 3rd, September 3rd is when Maricopa will make it to the hybrid status, if you will, for schools.
Yeah, and that's why so many schools just said, let's just wait until after that Labor Day holiday. So you're talking about September 3rd. Labor Day holiday is that weekend, September 7th specifically. And a lot of them were saying, let's go to the hybrid model on the 8th, and we're calling that date early. And it's looking like we're going to make it almost right on time to that.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So some of the other counties that haven't made the checklist just
you can see Cochise, the same issue we had with the business dashboard. They have too high of a per capita on August the 2nd. I have to check that and see what went on there, but we'll figure it out, because it's kind of interesting that they say it's it's moderate. They're saying moderate, but obviously it's not. So we'll figure out what happened. Pinal County, you can see just same issue. They're just under, just over 100 per 100 per 100,000, and they just have to make that. And then what else do we have here? It looks like they are at least, they're at 5.9. So maybe next week, Pinal County will make it into the hybrid.
Boy, that's really close to be at 5.9 to see if they'll actually make it. So when you're watching this from home, I know it's a little bit difficult to see. The first red dot would be last week, and then the second green dot would be today. So we're going to have to wait till next Thursday. I know a lot of people were waiting to check this each and every day to see if their kids could get closer to being safer, to going back, and it's not updated every day. This is updated only on Thursday, which is why we're spending so much time on these two both business and school today.
Yes, and I just checked, just out of curiosity, I checked the Maricopa County one, which they always put together after after we're done here is when they actually push it out, but because there's been no updates on this either. Yeah.
Let's see. Heather's asking the data dashboard for Maricopa. Are you talking Maricopa the city or Maricopa County, Heather? Let us know. Shows Phoenix at 11.86% positive. Why does the number look so different on the graph? So are they looking at then last week's numbers? If we're assuming she's talking Maricopa County.
Yeah, I would presume she's talking about the city. And yeah, so I'll bring you there. So I'm just gonna bring.
If I'm seeing this, the data dashboard for Maricopa shows Phoenix at 11. Yep. Let us know, Heather. We'll find that. But let's walk through what we can at least gather for her.
I'm going to bring you to my own map just because I have it and I want to show it because I'm like that. And this is Phoenix, as you can see.
Well, I know why you want to show it. This is a beautiful flyover map. This is awesome.
So this is Phoenix, and you can see she's very likely talking about this because their percent positive in Phoenix is 11.6 for this last week and 14 point in the week prior. So this is what we're waiting to see updated today. But what she has to understand as far as the county versus the city, what we do know is that there were portions of the city of Phoenix that were hit very hard by COVID-19, and that's what's causing this percent positive to be so high in the city boundaries. And you can see in other places like Scottsdale, 6% positive, Chandler 7% positive, Queen Creek 0% positive. So I mean, in other places of Maricopa County, there's been much less percent positivity, and that's why when you round those together and aggregate them, that's why you get a different number for the county. But even though Phoenix is the lowest jurisdiction in Maricopa County, there are enough population centers outside of Phoenix to push the number down.
So Heather's writing back. Heather, thanks for sticking with us. She writes back, yes. So will they use the Phoenix data for determining reopening? So Heather, I'm assuming you're talking about schools, because if it's related to businesses, they're looking at county. And when we look at county, we've moved to moderate, which means these businesses can open at 50% unless they're a gym, they're at 25%. So if we're talking about schools, and that's what I'm assuming you're talking about there, the schools are free to make their own decisions. So this is just some guidelines that have come out from the state. So we've seen some school districts kind of looking at the numbers that suit them best, if you will. They're either looking at their actual school district numbers, they're looking at their zip code numbers, or they're looking at the county numbers overall. What we know as far as the schools go, Maricopa County has not made the cut. But if you look down to if you drill down to some of these zip codes or school districts, the numbers can look a little better for them. So it just depends on what numbers they're looking at. The danger in that then, Garrett, is when you take these smaller pockets, if you get like a little blip in the numbers, you're going to go right back up to red or yellow. So it can be a double-edged sword for some of these places if you're not looking at all the data carefully to make the best informed decision.
Yes, and I have the school dashboard pulled up as well. Well, my map, but so what I did, because I was annoyed that I had to keep going back to elementary school and unified school districts, because most people want to know about the elementary schools, I simply combined them. So now we're looking at both the unified school districts and the elementary school districts in the entire county. This is what it looks like. You can see that almost all the elementary school districts are in the red, but also most of the elementary school districts exist in Phoenix. But you can see, and again, these have not been updated for today. We're still waiting on the update. This is all from last week.
That's what I want to tell Heather. Heather, hang with us too and check back with us tomorrow. Or if you want to go look this up on your own tonight, they'll update these, but they really don't update them till like 4 or 5 o'clock. So that's going to be the time to double check back on this, and you'll see more symmetry in the numbers because they're going to have the dates that are matching. So right now, this would be 1 week behind when we're drilling down this much.
For example, Tempe Elementary School District will likely flip this evening. At 4 o'clock, this will turn hybrid. I don't know because there's no way for me to replicate these numbers, but just based on that 6.7, that's very unlikely that it's gone from the week before, from last week, that this will go to yellow. Balls Elementary, no, that's still at 9.4. A lot of these Phoenix districts, they still have fairly high percent positives at this point. So it looks like most of them are going to stay in the red no matter what. Yeah, it looks like it does appear Morrison will likely switch to yellow. And that appears to be it. Other than that, everything looks like it's going to stay. Mesa Unified will not switch to yellow because they still have an 8.1. Well, they may switch to yellow business metrics, but they won't make that 7%. That's very important to understand. Maricopa County is using the 10% threshold for their coloring, but it is a 7% for schools. So even though Mesa may flip to yellow tonight, it's still going to be over the 7%.
Okay. I want to touch on just a few comments. First of all, thanks guys for some of your compliments in here. Deanna writes, we non-math people salute you guys. Thank you. Oh, Deanna, we're so happy to help. We're staring at these numbers and graphs all day, so we're just happy to help speed you through the information, so people are not having to spend too much time digging through a website to try to find something. Shauna asks, is a benchmark to stop with social distancing and maps? Or maps. Boy, I'm looking at your beautiful masks. Sorry. Shauna, what we can tell you is none of these benchmarks are to stop social distancing and masking. Likely the only thing that's going to stop those two things, whether you like them or not, are vaccines. So until we get to that point, masks are going to be in our lives. Social distancing is going to be in our lives because it's the only way to be able to try to curtail this thing and keep the numbers low and literally save lives out there. So any of these benchmarks are just for the percent of how much the business can open. So if it can open to 50%, if it can open to 25% because that's a gym, or if it's like, for instance, in Greenlee County that they can open their gyms to 50%. So this is just for more the capacity, the amount of people that they can let in, but everybody's still got to be masked. A lot of people are going to be taking temperature checks and doing things like that, just depending on the business or the gym or the restaurant, whatever it is. So that's going to be with us for a while. Love it or hate it, we're stuck with it. Let's see. So many good questions coming in. Don't want to spend too much time on this, but Morgan's asking how many active cases right now. What's the range?
I would say about 15 to 30,000.
Okay.
Just give that range. Like 15 to 30,000 cases are active right now.
Yep, and that's just in Arizona.
Yes, and that's confirmed cases, of course. If you actually look at the modeling, they think it's much higher.
Right. Christina asks, where can we find the map on school district numbers? Okay, so we'll give you the map, Christina. Don't even bother checking it till like 5 o'clock because you're going to look at the number and it's going to be totally reconfigured with a whole week's worth of data added in there. Producer Josh, are we able to add that? Oh, actually, I think you might have just added it in the comments, but we can get it up on the screen there for you too, so that you have that. But again, there it is, Maricopa.gov, and then it's got this longer address, or you could also type in school dashboards because sometimes that works to pull it right up. But again, don't even bother till 5 because it's going to get a whole refresh update, and we'll talk about all that tomorrow once we get the numbers out as well. Diane writes, thanks, Katie and Garrett. Hey, thanks, Diane, for joining us on here. We appreciate it. Morgan's asking, not total cases from February and March. So total cases, Morgan, for the whole pandemic here in Arizona, confirmed cases with a test are over 200,000. But what Garrett was saying was active cases is down, what you said, 25,000-ish?
Yeah, it's around, say, 15 to 30,000 right now. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives it some perspective. And Morgan, we're having to judge that based on, you take that 200,000, sadly you subtract the number of deaths, but then you're also subtracting out how long it's been since the diagnosis. So you can somewhat presume that they're feeling better. That does not account for long haulers. The long haulers are people who have had this and have been fighting this for a very, very, very long time. So this is just a general number that we can sort of give you to kind of give you a range right there. Woo! We got a lot to talk about today. You know what? Somebody earlier asked how many tests did we get in today? I forget who it was. I apologize. I saw your comment come in. We had 9,000 test results come in Arizona. That's a pretty high number, Garrett. 9,000?
Yeah, it's a very high number. And also, not a lot of backfilling today. All of those tests came in from this. There was just not as much of the adjusting we've seen over the last couple of days today. It was a pretty clean sort of data day for the ACDHS. The tests came in last week and the cases came in last week. The percent positives, 5.2%. Excuse me. That was my average. I just gave you my average. 8.5% on the John Hopkins, 7.5% on the total cases. And then I will give you mine in just a moment. I have to go to the one that I have without the average. Just take me 1 second. That is 5.8% today was the basically the percent positive of all the tests we got that we have negatives for.
All right. We didn't even do the summary page. Let's get to the summary page.
We didn't do the summary. In fact, I don't know if I have it on here. So let me throw it up.
And Andrea's asking a little bit earlier about the hospitals. We'll get to all that. Hang with us. I know somebody else was asking. Was it Kimberly? Sorry. So many good questions and comments are coming in. We'll get to the hospitals in just a second. So
yes,
yeah, you're not too late. We got you, girl. Hang with us.
Yep. All right. So I've got the page pulled up. Let me just make sure because I've got two things. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so as you can see, this is where we made the 200,000 threshold, and we have 680 new cases today. I was trying to see how long it's been since we've had over 1,000. Sorry that my head is turned. 14 days, so 2 weeks since we've had over 1,000 cases reported in one day. 33 deaths today, and what we saw, of course, is that as I told you, with the 8,000 tests from the PCRs, almost all of them came in this last week. Almost all the cases came in last week. And then but we did see the deaths sort of coming in as we have seen them over the course of a pretty large amount of time. So we're still seeing the deaths being added from sometimes June, sometimes July. And then, most of them in this, most recent weekdays, but still a lot of them from those other days.
And for Maricopa County specifically, I saw that 27 of the deaths came in those Maricopa County numbers. So not only are we approaching 5,000 lives lost in Arizona, but we're getting closer to that 3,000 mark in Maricopa, which is not unexpected, it being the most populous county. And also a lot of the congregate care settings are here in a bit of a larger city. And so we'll continue to watch those numbers closely. You talked about passing 200,000 cases overall, and we spent some time on each point that we kind of doubled those numbers. But in Maricopa County specifically, I mean, we're even approaching 800,000 test results back, it says. Is that what I'm seeing there?
We have about almost 900,000 when you account for both diagnostic and antibodies, but about 700,000 or so, a little over 700,000 diagnostic tests.
Yeah, so some really big numbers to be able to kind of get some perspective on how things look county to county and some of the numbers that we were looking at when we were looking at schools and businesses. Oh, Lisa, thanks for the sweet compliment. Love the great info you guys share with all of us. That's why we do this. Want to just keep you guys updated on all of this. We won't spend too much time on the summary page, but Garrett, were there any other highlights or lowlights there that we should at least make note of today?
No, not on the summary page. Everything's pretty standard. We didn't really have a change here. We didn't have a change in the total serology positives. So we'll just move right on to the hospitalizations. As you can see, we did go back down. We're now under 900 for inpatient. It's a smaller milestone, obviously, than going under 1,000, but still pretty significant that the trend line continues to go down after kind of bumping up on the 24th. It's sort of gone back down to starting to slow down again. We see that there's been a flatlining of ventilator use for COVID-19 patients. It was dropping significantly, and we've sort of hit a 3-day floor. Don't know what's going to happen here, but at this point, it's obviously slowing down as far as the dropping here. ICU, it doesn't look like it's slowing too much. It did increase a tiny bit today, but it's only 2 days. That has happened, as you can see, multiple times over the course of these last several weeks. So we'll watch this to see what happens the next few days to see if it continues downward. The discharges, ever so slightly down. Emergency room visits, this increased by a pretty substantial amount today, although we are not ahead of where we were this last week, the week of right here, this 818 to 821. So we're still doing pretty good, but you can see with these emergency department visits definitely starting to sort of level off. And the leveling off really started on the 12th. So in the middle of this month, these emergency department visits started to level off. And intubations did creep up again, but so far still, we have some record downs here. So we'll see what happens here as well.
And Michelle asks, what about the R0 number? Let's check on that too. That was one of the things that we saw a little pop in during this week. And then how do things look today for that? That was one site I did not go check. I usually try to make it through all of these spots. I did not check that today.
Yeah, the R0 number is, I think it was 86.86 yesterday, right? Yep. It's 0.84, so it did slide down a little bit. Told you that it probably was going to do that based on the case numbers. I know probably slide again tomorrow a little bit, but we're not. We are back to being under 1. I mean, we're touching the bar for 1 for our error bar, 0.65 to 1. Pretty, but we're nowhere near what Washington is at this point. I mean, Washington's got a 0.6 to 0.93, but still, we're in good company here on our RT number.
Who is way on that naughty list? I can't see the letters down there at the end for the state. Is that South Dakota?
It's still South Dakota, Hawaii, Iowa, and North Carolina, North Dakota. So a lot of, it looks like sort of that North Midwestern states. And then Hawaii has been on that list for a while. There's not a lot of cases in Hawaii, but they have been picking up recently.
All right. Well, we'll continue to track that as well.
Yeah, remember the RT number has nothing to do with the number of cases, the volume of cases. It's like the growth of cases. So it doesn't, like something like Hawaii that has tiny amounts of cases can still have a much higher RT than, say, obviously like a New York or Arizona, which has a pretty substantial amount of cases.
Yeah, we will continue tracking that as well. I always say, oh boy, because that's my home state. So watching that closely for friends and family there. All right, we are coming up on our last few minutes here with all of you. It's gone by in a flash today as we've had so much to talk about here. I do want to mention one thing that we kind of touched on. A lot of people were asking about the schools, so don't forget that later on this evening, we should check. Maybe Garrett, you could check right now to see if the county has updated.
Oh, what do you think I'm doing?
Of course I am. You know what? When we started doing this at the beginning of the summer, remember we were dressing alike. We would be like, we would show up and not see each other and be wearing like the same blue or red V-neck. I mean, we're already sharing the same brainwave here, Garrett. So
no updates, but I just checked. Yes.
Okay. So what Garrett was checking for all of you is the county site. So if you are in Maricopa County and you're concerned about what's going to happen with the schools and how the numbers are going to change, it's going to be updated after, like, in the next 3 hours. So,
4 to 5 o'clock is when the update's going to come.
So there's the site. We've added it right there on the screen. Go check it after that time if you're super curious. If you don't get a chance, don't worry about it. We got you covered. We'll walk you through it all tomorrow at about this time. We'll spend a lot of time tomorrow on the school's dashboard. We'll drill down to the zip codes, to your neighborhood if you are in Maricopa County. Of course, we'll continue to cover the whole state for you. So we'll get you updated on all the coronavirus information that's coming in. I do want to let you know where you can find us. The conversation always continues. And you can find Garrett, as we mentioned, on Twitter at Garrett_Archer. You can find that that date list that he showed that had the dates that we hit those different metrics. I found that really interesting. I also shared that today. You can find my account at Katie Raml on Twitter. And then on Facebook, if you want to join us over there, as I've said, I've seen so many names pop up, familiar faces over on my Facebook page, and I'd love to continuing the conversation there. Facebook.com/news from Katie. And then our very latest reporting can be found at abc15.com/coronavirus. It's a whole section dedicated to coronavirus. So if there's anything you missed, you can find that information there. And then, of course, with all these businesses and gyms and restaurants and places opening today, we have reporters stretched out all across the area reporting on this for you and keeping you updated. I do want to highlight that phone number once again. If you see something that's not right in a business, they do want to hear from you. You're the best set of eyes out there to keep everybody updated. The number is on your screen, 1-844-410-2157. They're going to ask a series of questions. I see a good question. What's the mouse on the little table behind Katie? It should be behind your computer. So, Nick, good question. Here's my mouse on this computer, and that's where I anchor the news from when I anchor from home. So you'll see me sitting there tonight, and that's my mouse for that computer. There's the computer that has the TV camera is around this way. I'll save you all the tour for later. Maybe I'll post a picture on some of my social accounts. You guys are too funny. 2 mouses. We'll say goodbye with that this afternoon. We hope you'll join us back tomorrow. Remember all the latest news headlines at 4, 5, 6, and 10. Make it a great day, everybody. Stay safe out there. Thanks for all the kind comments. We appreciate it. Be safe.